time to play ball. Welcome to the podcast with no limits, whether it be sports, current events, or random thoughts. This is the place to step in and stay a while. Your host is a proud alumnus of Rio Hondo Prep, a former minor league baseball umpire, and a man with strong opinions. Welcome to the Get Home Safe podcast and your host, Matt Hersema.
Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of Get Home Safe. It is Friday, so you guys know what that means. It's time for another great fun-filled conversation with a wonderful guest. We try to mix it up here on the Get Home Safe podcast. I have a lot of friends who I officiated with, a lot of mentors, a lot of people that I've come across in sports, but also a ton of Rio Hondo Prep graduates. I love talking to law enforcement, firefighters, former military, guys of that nature. Well, today we have not only an RHP graduate from the class of 1994, but someone who is in service to others as a firefighter. And I will give him, let him explain all the details to you. But today we're going to be joined by Mr. Larry Pollock, again, from the class of 1994 at Rio Hondo Prep. He currently works for the Rancho Cucamonga Fire Protection District. I'll let him explain what all that means exactly, but that's why I got my old school Rams hat with Los Angeles Fire on it. A great gift from my buddy Jordan Ross, a classmate of mine from the class of 2003, who is a Los Angeles firefighter. And I happen to know a few of those guys, a few guys that are out there wearing the uniform that run into the buildings that everyone else is running out of. So we'll get into all the details today of what Larry's job entails. I like hearing from these guys, what life is like at the firehouse, because for me, it just sounds like a good time, except for the whole running into burning buildings thing. But it sounds like, my other buddy, Paul Hampton, firefighter, my friend, Renzo Roa, his brother, Eric Roa is a firefighter. So I know a few of these guys, and it sounds like a great time in the firehouse, a lot of razzing, a lot of stuff like that, but also a serious time to train and obviously look forward to potential dangers and how to be ready for those things. So I want to talk to Larry today about his experiences as a firefighter, but also it's always so fun to do is go back in time, look back at his Kare Youth League days, what it was like going into Rio Hondo Prep, his experiences there in the early 90s. I mean, he said here in the text chain, class of 94, the best class from RHP. I don't know about all that, Larry, but he's going to have to prove a point there. You can't just throw out that term and then not explain. So I'm going to let him explain. Also, Larry, something that's of significance, he married into the Hampton family. I've talked with the likes of Rod Bazuzzi before, an officer down in Orange County, police officer who married into the Hampton family. And for those that don't know, the Hampton family was, or Mr. Orrick Hampton Sr., I should say, was the founder of Kare Youth League. So without him, there would be no Kare Youth League. There would be no Rio Hondo Prep. And so I want to kind of ask what that's like, because the Hampton name is famous. There's a few banners with the Hampton name, and of course Hampton Hall is one of the largest buildings there at Rio Hondo Prep. So speaking of Rio Hondo Prep, Larry's oldest daughter, I believe, I'm not sure, I can't remember all the kids exactly, but I do know that he has a daughter who is an athlete at Rio Hondo Prep currently. So I'm going to let him kind of be a dad bragger here, jump in and just brag about his kids, talk about how great the Lady Cares are doing in all sports, but right now specifically, they got a heck of a softball team, and I give great credit to Rio Hondo Prep. No matter what it is, I don't care if it's chess or girls softball or boys volleyball or I don't know, Glee Club. Rio doesn't do those things, but if they did, I would be in the front row leading the cheers like I once did for the Care Crazies and the pep band and such. So we're going to talk Rio Hondo Prep past and present with Larry's kids being great athletes there, and can't wait to get into all this. So let's not waste any more time. Let's get to Mr. Firefighter, Larry Pollock. Let's hear from him and let him explain why he thinks his class from 1994 is oh so special, and why some recent classes at Rio Hondo Prep are special. It's going to be a lot of fun. Can't wait to do this. Without further ado, let's bring on Mr. Larry Pollock. Okay, we are now joined by Captain Larry Pollock from the Rancho Cucamonga Fire Department. I'm not sure if I messed up the term. Hell, he can correct me if I'm wrong. Hey, Larry, what's going on?
Hey, Matt. Thank you for having me.
Oh, this is a It's a pleasure. The pleasure's all mine, man. And, I always kind of ask people kind of when we get started, just to kind of, hey, so have you heard much of this podcast before? Have you heard any guests or anybody that is kind of you've listened to before?
So I've been a long time listener, first time caller type guy. You actually helped me get through my long drives. So as a firefighter, I know summers have been extremely busy for us. And so the last assignment I had was in Tahoe was a Caldor fire, which is like 13 and a half hour drive. And I was,
Wow.
falling asleep. And so, my wife told me about the podcast. You should listen to it because it's all the guys you know. And I started banging them all out, just like reminiscing all the great people that you interviewed and my friends and classmates. And then even some of the boys that, I coached. It was just like reliving, memories, and it was awesome. I loved it.
Oh man. Well, thank you so much for that. Hey, God bless you and all your firefighters up there,
Thank you.
keeping everybody safe and man, the title rings true then for you fighting the fire, get home safe, right? It works.
Right. Oh, it's one of our mottos, everybody goes home. That's what we do.
Oh, beautiful. Well, Larry, in the fall, I tried something a little different, and I'm going to continue it, but probably a different labeled podcast. Is I kind of followed the RHP football team and did like this recap show and preview show.
It's awesome.
And people loved it. You chimed in, said after did tell me about your liking of that?
Oh, it was so cool. And then getting to know the guys. I mean, my daughter's a senior, so those guys were all in her class. But just watching, I was out there, I listened in and watched, and you do your live streaming, and I'd be like, oh, come on. And I was yelling in my hotel room and that was a foul, come on. It was awesome. No, I loved it. And, I mean, the Charter Oak, that was like the highlight. And I was like, okay, I could be at peace now. The small school that took down Goliath, I'm good with that. To me, that was like our championship,
Oh, big time. I said it then and I'll say it again and forever. It's like, to me, that was a bigger win than any championship. I truly do believe that.
For sure.
And props to those guys. And for your daughter to be amongst those classmates, that must have been cool.
Yeah.
We got so much to get to, Larry. We're talking about your time in Kare, Rio, firefighting, family, everything. So, but I currently want to talk about your work in the fire department. You're a captain. Take me through what you do currently. You sound like you do get shipped off to other fires in other areas sometimes.
Yeah, the fire service, we're a jack of all trades, master of none. So once you get in, there's so many avenues that you can get your hands into and be involved in. And so I wear a lot of hats. The fire service, you take classes, and then you're expected to know more than the average person. So I am a captain, but I'm also a paramedic. I'm also a tech rescue technician. So our city, we have 2 canyons that a lot of people go up there and get hurt. And so we have to sometimes go over there and pick them off. Like this 2 weeks ago, we had a large animal rescue where a cow fell in a well, and we had to have our team get them out. So we had to know how to do that. I was also part of the hazmat team, where you get to wear the balloon suits and test some unknown substances and, lose about 15 pounds of sweat. But other than that, I like to teach. I'm part of our EMS cadre, and and then also I'm really involved in our the Mt SAC Fire Academy, and I'm a lead instructor there. Yeah, and it's awesome because I get to see some care people like, whoa, hey, I know you're a care guy, and so I have a special spot for those guys. And I like to mentor young people into the fire service, because I think it's the greatest job in the world, to be honest. So
now, adventure, helping other people, being an instructor to younger guys.
Yep.
This all sounds familiar. I don't know where you got these interests or these desires. It's so weird to hear that. How do you come up with this stuff?
Right. I mean, I'm a firm believer that things happen for a reason. And everything that I went through Kare Youth League, Rio Hondo Prep, I think just prepped me for this job and this calling. And I feel that it's an easy transition for me, because I was, teaching little kids, right? Talking to them and speak their language. Like, I never thought I'd be able to use that. But then now when I'm, doing station tours, or if a little kid gets hurt, like I could get down to their level and talk to them. And, it was like, I was being prepped this whole time to be in the fire service. And I think anyone who goes through Kare Youth League, Rio Hondo Prep, I think it's an easy transition to go into the public service, because that's what we were trained to do, and to help people. So
yeah, it's almost, I see so many graduates who go police officers, fire, nurses.
Right.
I mean, it's just the service industry, and it really is. You're trained from a young age, hey, you live your life in service to others, to do things for others. And so, yeah, I've said this before. I think I would put the ratio of Rio graduates, percentile, whatever, who go into firefighting and police. I put it up against any other high school in the world, really, as far as, the types of people that it produces.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, definitely. And we were taught those lessons that, respect, integrity, being honest, hardworking. That's something that, was ingrained in us. Right. And so for us to go in this line of duty, it's like, it's easy for us. It's like, nature, it's like a nature to us.
Now, that said, you've been in the fire department for how long? How many years?
19 years.
Wow. So coming up 20 years here. Yep. And I'm sure there's a lot of good days, but there's also got to be plenty of bad days, and seeing things, or I've talked to firefighter friends, things don't always go as planned. That's the nature of the business, really. And how do you balance out kind of those rough days, even days where you've witnessed something that is not pretty? How do you balance out just recovering and moving on from that, from having to deal with it,
there's definitely mind scars to the job, which, is a downside. But I think what's making me successful, hands down, 100%, is my wife. Without her support, without her, just being there for me and this whole time, there's no way I'd be successful to where I am right now without her. Because without her, that person that I could bounce stuff off of and just talk, and she knows me better than anybody. So there's no way I'd be where I am today without her. So she doesn't get enough credit. Like, she's a stay-at-home mom, right? But that, I will trade being a firefighter and go up a burning building than what she had to do when the kids were young, because that is a position, a job that we take for granted, and I don't think we give enough credit to those stay-at-home moms, because they're the rock stars. I'm telling you right now, they are the
fighting
rock stars.
Fighting fires. That's easy. Chasing around three kids. That's the hard stuff. I mean, she had less sleep than I did during that time. So, yeah. So, I mean, you hear firefighters, I've watched a lot of TV shows, and most of it's in a big city, tall burning buildings. But here in California, I mean, things are spread out. You hear about guys getting shipped off up north to fight fire. I mean, it's one of we got spring, summer, and fire season, or whatever, we have.
It's all fire season now.
Yeah. Right. So how often, or I mean, what are some of the places you've had to be sent to fight some of these larger fires?
Well, the fun ones are always up north, because that's where you get the big heavy timber, and those are like the campaign fire that last for months at a time. But the max that we could get sent out at a time, the longest, is 21 days. And so I've been out, like, I remember back in 2018, 2019, August, I was home for 3 days, and I went up there 21 days, came back for a day, and went back out again, because the fires were just, understaffed and they needed help from us. But we could go. I mean, I've been to Nevada, just a little bit across the border. I've been to Oregon, a little bit across the border, but we typically stay in California, but all over Northern California, Napa. I was in Weed by Todd. I drove by there, took a picture. I'm like, hey, this is where Todd Carson is, up way up here. Yeah, Weed. So San Luis Obispo was nice. We were at the Dolan fire, which was up the coast. It takes us all over the place. Yeah. And you think with all the fires, you're like, hey, what's left to burn? Because there's like millions of acres, but somehow there's fires.
So here's a naive question. Like when you do get shipped way up north, is it, you guys aren't riding the truck all the way up there, are you? I mean, because time is of the essence. Like, how do they get all you guys up there in a timely manner with all the equipment and the fire trucks and everything too?
Yeah. So there's two ways we could go up there. So there's one is a strike team where you get 5 engines, and typically on each engine, there's 4 firefighters. And then you have a battalion chief and then another training chief that goes. So we will run a convoy up there and drive those engines. And, they're not the most comfortable pieces of apparatus to drive in, and they get like 3 miles to the gallon. But, we drive up there, and then, we check in and get ready for assignment. And then the other way we could do it's called a single resource. So I'm also a fire line medic, which means I'm in charge of like usually a group of hot shots, and then I am their medic. If something bad happens, I take care of them. So that one's pretty fun because I'll fly into places that fire engines can't get to. We'll get dropped off with a helicopter, and I'll stay out there with them for 14, 21 days, just sleep in the dirt and living with the guys.
Wow. Yeah. Wow. So it's not always that the air conditioned life at the firehouse, you guys playing pool or whatever.
No. It is. No, this is the rough stuff. I mean, there's only a few people who like doing this stuff, and I'm one of them, but it's definitely arduous work, and you got to really like the outdoors, and sleeping in the dirt should bug you.
Was there a moment early on in your career where it was like, whoa, what am I getting into here? I can imagine after 20 years of this almost that you've seen it all kind of, but was there some moments early on, you're all fired up, ready to go, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, I don't know.
Yeah. So when I got hired back in 2003, we had the Grand Prix fire, which went through our city. And, I was green. A lot of times it's hurry up and wait. You get there and you just wait for conditions to line up. And I remember telling my cap, I'm like, man, Cap, this is boring. Like, we're just waiting for the fire. Fire's not doing anything. And then like 30 minutes later, the wind shifted and it was game on. I've never seen so much fire. It was like really a freight train. And I had a deck gun where we shoot, this 1,000 gallons a minute gun, right? And it looked like I was squirting a water gun into the fire. It did nothing. And I was like, this is crazy. And, I've been in, a few hairy situations that I try not to tell my wife about, but
no.
Yeah. No,
yeah. No, that's nuts, man.
But it's like definitely evolving, like what the fire service is. Like, when I first got hired, I never thought I would have a need for any riot gear or bulletproof vests, but because with these school shootings and stuff, our department was very proactive and got us the gear we needed. And here I am, wearing a bulletproof vest with a ballistic helmet, doing active shooter drills, and it's crazy. I'm like, what? I didn't sign up to get shot.
Yeah, that's for those police guys. Yeah, we're the other guys.
Right,
man.
Right.
But honestly, come on, what's a few more pounds of gear? It's not like what you're carrying could be all that heavy.
You just have to embrace the suck. That's our one of our mottos.
Oh man, that is a good stuff. What was I going to say here? So throughout your career, I mean, I asked my buddy Jordan this because like. He could sleep anywhere. He's hilarious. He'll catch 5 minutes.
It's a superpower to have to sleep anywhere. Yeah, you have to be able to.
Now, because of the firehouse situation, you sleep at your job, but
Right.
if there's a siren or something, it's like, so are you a lighter sleeper because of that, with like the fire alarm going off?
So at work, light sleeper. Like even though you could sleep through the night, you get one of those days where you get to sleep through the night. I'm still blown out because like my head is still okay. I'm ready for a call, right? But as soon as I get home, as soon as my head is on the pillow, I am out. My wife hates it. She has like this whole. She's got to have like the lights. She's got to have incense burning and sound, and she reads. And me, I like shower, head on pillow, out. She's like, I hate you. How can you do that? Sleep so fast. Yeah. But when I'm at home, I can turn it off and I'm out. Yeah.
Oh, that is great. Well, let's see, coming up 20 years. Well, I mean, you're a ways away. I mean, what are your future goals for the career? Do you want to retire by a certain age? What does the future have in store for you?
Well, I'd like to put in my 30 years. It's pretty interesting with my department. 20 years is pretty good, but as far as seniority goes, I'm like number 5 in the captain's rank. So it's like, wow, I'm considered OG now. We got so many younger guys, and I'm one of the older guys now, and I'm like, well, I don't consider myself an old guy, but I'd like to put in my time, and I still enjoy teaching. So maybe I could still, teach a class in the academy, or even take like I really love teaching the intro to fire service class, like a semester class, because I like to, just mentor and inspire, young people into the fire service. And so I enjoy that. So we'll see.
Yeah,
it all depends, what the wife
you
wants
keep
to
going.
do.
Yeah, hey, there you go. Hey, she said she's the real hero. So
she is. Look, let me tell your listeners right now, if the wife's not happy, no one's happy. So you got to make sure that wife is happy, because it's going to be a long career.
Spoken like a true veteran. Now,
yes.
in a less serious note, I mean, this is just me being, old high school football guy, and I got buddies and here and there. Talk to me about the firehouse. What I want to hear: 2 things: pranks and food. You guys cook up some big feasts in there, and are there some pranks that you could share with the audience here?
So there are pranks, but because we're trying to be more professional, and a lot of things people get people get their feelings hurt, and then all of a sudden lawsuits happen. You're just like, oh man. So that's going away. But we do pranks. One of the pranks that they told us, this is a battalion chief, which is pretty high up, is they he has his own vehicle, and they put powder in his vents, and it was a hot day, and then when he turned on the car with the AC on, boom, he just blew his whole face up with powder. And I'm like, oh man, that's so awesome. There's no way we could pull that off now. There's no way.
Wow.
But yeah, we mess with the guys, we razz them, but
the rookies, the probation guys, right? They get a lot of grief.
Yeah, but it's we just tell them it's a rite of passage. We're not here to get rid of you, or you will soon be on the other end of that, So nobody gets hurt. We try to keep it, clean and professional in our department anyway. So
that's cool.
And as far as food goes, oh my gosh, like I remember
you guys are always shopping at the store. Yeah. I see fire trucks all the time at the grocery store. What's going on here?
Of course, great cooks. We have one guy who's a sushi chef, and we have a barbecue pit master, and it's like the food is good. And it's funny because like we'll make something at the firehouse, and then I'll have it again at home because it's so good. So I'll have like meals multiple times, in a row. But when I first started, I remember my captain was like, "Hey, Larry, so what could you cook for us?" Because the firehouse meals is an important time. And I'm like, "Oh yeah, I make a pretty good quesadilla." And I remember he's drinking his Diet Coke, and he like spit it out. He's like, "Is it just cheese and tortilla?" I'm like, "Well, I mean, I had chicken." He's like, "Oh man, you got a lot to learn," because I was so green. Like I had no idea how the whole fire service culture was, and I had a lot of growing up to do.
You're Filipino, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So the quesadilla is a Filipino delicacy, right? Is what you
Oh yeah. All you got to do is fry anything and then you call it Filipino.
put rice.
Rice.
Joe Coy, love that comedian. He's
Oh
hilarious.
yeah.
Oh my goodness, yep. I laugh at. Anyway, well, good stuff. Stay safe out there. I am honored that you listened to much of the podcast while on the road and everything. That is so cool. We're going all over the place, but how did you get involved? How did you know, at what point did you know you wanted to get involved in firefighting?
Oh, my wife just walked by, but it is her fault.
Her fault.
Yes. So I was, Filipinos in the medical field, that's all that nurses, right?
No way.
My mom,
no, you don't say.
Yes, my mom, nurse. And so she goes, Larry, I want you to be in the medical field. I want you to be a doctor. And so growing up, that's what I was in my head. I'm going to be a doctor. And so I went to school, took all the classes. I remember sitting in one of my semester classes. I had calculus, organic chemistry, and physics. And I was like, this is not fun at all. I'm like, I am not enjoying myself. I'm not doing this. I'm taking a break. And so at the time, my wife, Cheris, or girlfriend at the time, she was going through Cal Poly Pomona, and she needed one more class to graduate. And she actually signed up to take a class abroad in China. And she goes, oh, I'm going to take Chinese. Come with me so I could sign up for a class. And so I went with her to Mt SAC, and then we're standing in line. She was flipping through the catalog, and she's like, fire science. That sounds like interesting. I'm going to sign you up. I'm like, what? I'm like, fire science. I'm like, I'm not even, whatever. Sure. I'm not doing it. I took a break from school. Sure. I'll try to get back into it. Right. And then the first day I just fell in love. I remember my instructor, who was the chief, was like, be an asset to society and not a liability. And that resonated with me. And I'm like, whoa, man, this is my calling, balls to the wall. I know this is what I want to do. I think God has opened this for me. And then from there on, it was just boom, took off, and I was one of the very lucky ones. Cause back then, you'd apply for you'd camp out at night, the night before, just to get an application. You'd have thousands of people, camping in front of City Hall, trying to get an app. And I was one of those people, because it was so hard to get a job in the fire service. And, I got extremely, I want to say it was all God, because back then all they took were paramedics. And, they took this guy who had literally nothing on his resume to show for, in regards to fire service, and got picked up, 6 months after I got at the academy. And there's guys who were trying for years. I mean, I know some guys from Rio were trying for a long time to get to it. But yeah, I got very fortunate and I got picked up.
Isn't it funny how a lot of times in life, it's one significant phrase or sentence or just something somebody says that hits you. I wrote that down. Be an asset to society, not a liability.
Right.
I can't think of something that's more relevant today for anything.
Right.
But
yeah.
What a concept. That should be on every street corner.
Yeah. So I was like, from there, it was just, game on. Everything just worked out. And, like I said, everything happens for a reason, right? And I believe God opens doors. And this Rancho Cucamonga, I've never heard of this department. It's because it's before the 210 opened up, right? And so I'm like, what is this place? I remember driving by it, during the academy. I'm like, man, this is like the valley of the dirt people. There's nothing out here. And I got picked up, and one of the questions they asked was, because I didn't know, but it was one of our core values in our department is integrity. What is integrity? Define integrity. What does it mean to you? Give us an example. And it's weird because Mr. Ostergaard would always harp on us, be a man of integrity, make your yes be yes, and your no means no. Your word means something, right? And a lot of times, during the interview, you'll hear people say, especially with that question, do the right thing when no one's looking. And if you hear that 500 times a day, you kind of get, mind numb. But I came in there, I'm like, oh, be a man of integrity means your word means something. Your yes means yes, and your no means no. And And they were like, they perked up. I remember because I had like the last interview on the last day, and they perked up and they're like, oh, this is something different, refreshing. And like, tell us more about it, And I was like, oh man. So I told them all these stories, and yeah, came out number one in my class. And it's hilarious because I remember sitting there looking at my resume, and I was pretty proud of like being an EMT, or, I got the EMT cert, and I got Mt SAC, and I looked at my resume. I'm like, I'm pretty proud of that, because I was pretty hard. And I looked at the guy next to me, and he had like all sorts of accolades, like Firefighter of the Year. I remember was on top, Firefighter of the Year, and all these certs. And I was like, and I kind of turned my resume away so he would look, because I was like, oh man, I'm like, what am I doing here? I'm like, God, if this is what you want me to do, if this is where you want me to be, then dude, it's all on you. Because if you compared the resumes, I was like nothing. I was green, and I came out number one. It was just like,
hey man, we all know David. What David have? 5 stones? I mean, come on,
right?
That wasn't much of a resume, but he took down Goliath. And there's so many lessons like that you hear. That's why I love having these conversations, because so many of the stories, they're unique, but they're also similar to other people. And you're like, wow, we all are in the same planet Earth, living the same life and everything. That is great. And you already mentioned it, as far as the mentality really going in, but what about the physical training and everything? Was it right back, like being in double sessions again with that mentality?
Oh yeah. To me, it was fun. I'm like, oh dude, I'm like right back doing double sessions, and just and it's a team aspect for, being a crew. You're like a team, and everyone has a job, and they know what they have to do, and so each part is important, and there's no more, one part is no more important than the other. And for me, it was, I loved it. I'm like, man, I feel like I'm playing sports again, know, and just pushing my body, and like that mental attitude, of just pushing it. And it's good because it keeps me in shape, and it keeps me accountable. So,
well, one of the scariest things for me, just my daily life, are heights. I was like, one thing about fire, I can't imagine climbing up that thing and just being like, you got to deal with stuff way up high and look down. I mean, I don't do heights. Have you ever had to work something really, really?
I got to show you some pictures from our tech rescue classes, where I'm dangling upside down 7 stories high. You just have to trust your equipment, and just like, all right, if it's my time, it's my time. But, we train so much, that it's we make sure that everything is safe. We double, triple check it, and we have all these redundancies to make sure that every person's safe. So you just have to learn to trust your equipment, trust your training, and then go out there and have fun. You're like, I still, pinch myself. I'm like, can't believe I'm getting paid to do this. This is so cool.
And I'm sure above all those things is your partners, the people you're working with. That's got to really be a trust factor.
Yeah, because they're your crew. They're like, like that movie, the 300, right? The person next to you, you got to trust them, because they're the ones, watching your flank. So
wow.
And our department, we're really good about training. Like we, there's always that saying. I'm gonna say a lot of sayings. Like, you can't train too much for a job that could possibly kill you. And our department believes in that. And so we put in like a $30 million training center, which is basically like a Disneyland for firefighters. We have towers, we have collapsing walls, we have trenches. And so we go out there and we practice our craft. So we're good when we're there, when we're needed.
Wow. Well, stay safe out there, man. Trust your training, as I'm sure you do.
Right.
And all that good stuff. Wow. That is great. And that's great. And then to come home to a wonderful family has got to be a special blessing too, after all that stuff. Well, Larry, let me ask you about many years before today, and back when you were back as far as you can remember. I always like to ask people, how did you stumble upon this place known as Kare Youth League? What are some of your early childhood memories, man?
So grew up, single parent, right? And so my mom would work till 5 or 6 at night, and she needed me to be involved in something so I would get in trouble, right? And so I took home, the the flyer, Kare Youth League. And she's like, I'm signing you up, however many days they allow, you're going. And, you know, I mean, I didn't really have a father figure who played sports. So we didn't know any of the stuff. And I remember it was baseball season and I came home, I'm like, Mom, I need a glove. And she goes, well, I don't know. How am I supposed to know what to get you? What size? I'm like, I don't know. So she took my hand and she traced it right on a piece of paper. And she went to like, I think Big Five or something, because my son needs a glove and his hand's this big. And so she brings back the glove and I'm a lefty, right? And so I'm like, I'm like, cool, I got a glove. And then I show up to practice and I'm like, how am I supposed to throw? Because she got me the glove for my hand that I throw, right? Oh. And I'm like, she got me the wrong glove, wrong hand. And so, you know, after that, you know, just learning stuff, you know, from our coaches. The coaches were always so good about, you know, helping you when they could see somebody who's.
Who are some of the early coaches you had? What team were you on?
I was an Indian. So one of my first coaches was like Mr. John Martin, Mr. Steve Martin. Mr. Chris Horton was a huge part of my upbringing. Like he coached me when I was young. I was in his wedding. I played violin for his wedding. And he, I don't know if I followed him or he followed me, but like all the way up to junior high, Mr. Horton was there. Then in high school, Mr. Horton was there. And so he was a huge part, but I had, you know, Mr. Drain, but Mr. John Martin, Mr. Steve Martin were the early coach. Mr. Jim Davis, early ones. Yeah.
Nice. So some kids really, I mean, some kids are a combination of things. Some kids really like the sports. Other kids love playing in the creek and Mount Care and this and that.
That's me.
You just kind of your typical, you like the creek, you like all that stuff. Dirty.
I was the worst. It's so funny because I expect a lot from my kids to be like these athletes, right? I was the worst athlete. Like I could care less. You know, I'd be out there. I'm like, oh, dude, check out this frog, like in the outfield, you know, in Covina. And the ball cage, like, pay attention. I was one of those kids who was a total late bloomer. Like in high school, was just little, scrawny, and it wasn't until after high school where I like, oh man, you know, I finally became somewhat athletic. But yeah, I was the outdoor dirt ball. You know, whenever we take pictures, my uniform was always dirty because I was in the creek or something like that. And yeah. And you know, growing up, we didn't really have a lot of money, right? And so for the longest time, I had remember those helmets? I had the duck when it came with the mask, the duck. It was basically the punter's face mask. Dude, I had that for the longest time. It wasn't until I want to say like junior high when like my good friend of mine, Jason Sakamoto, he got a new mask and he's like, "Hey, dude, you want this?" I'm like, "Yeah, man, I'll take it. Take whatever you got." So
that is hilarious.
Yeah.
You mentioned the violin. You played the violin at a wedding. When did violin? That's a unique instrument.
Oh, I know. Like I said, my mom wanted me in everything because, you know, she couldn't really watch me because she was working, right? So I was in Tiger Cubs, Boy Scouts. I played violin, Kare Youth League. So I did all that just to stay busy, right? So I played the violin, and then Mr. Horton like found out that I played the violin, and he's like, "Hey, can you play in my wedding?" I'm like, "Well, I don't know, sure, I guess." And so yeah, I played in his wedding, and it's funny they have a video of me playing. Yeah.
What about your sister Charlene?
Charlene? Yeah.
How was life like? You know, growing up with her.
Oh, it was fun. I love my sister. We were just it was just us two, right? So we didn't have anybody else to play with. So we would, you know, play with each other. And to me, she was just like a sibling. Yeah, I love. So a funny story. So they growing up, right? I have an older sister, and she's this pretty. Oh my, oh, that's my sister. That's gross, right? And then my best friend, Ken Lee, my best friend, he hung out with me before, right? But then he started taking an interest in my sister. And I'm like, dude, that's my sister, man. That's gross. And he's like, no, yeah, he liked her for the longest time. And then all of a sudden, Bills came in and swooped in on her. So now
she marries Billy.
Billy, yeah. It worked out for me because, you know, Ken's my best friend and I'm part of the Leaf family. And I get along with Bill, and Johnny was one of my idols growing up, and so it's all good.
I've heard
It all
that
worked
before
out.
about brothers and sisters. Like, yeah, the brothers, his friends treat him a little nicer as everyone gets a little older. It's like,
Yeah,
oh, what's
I'm
going
like,
on here?
yeah, I'm like, what's this? I'm like, dude, what's
Oh,
wrong with you
well,
guys, man?
yeah. I recently had Ken Lee back on the pod, and I had Bill
Yeah.
Lee on the podcast. So you had to
Right.
enjoy those episodes from.
Oh, dude, those are hilarious. It cracked me up because I went on all those trips that those guys did, and I grew up with them, and it was good times. Those Lead boys are good people.
Do you get up to Mount Care with your sister living up there now, and get because Mount Care was a place you loved as a kid?
Yeah,
right?
so we like to go the family camp. So if any of you guys get a chance to go to family camp, it's a fun time. So we try to go up there. We try to visit them, when we can, but they're so busy now. Now that everything opened up with COVID, I mean,
yeah,
they're just swamped because everyone wants to get out of their house and enjoy the great outdoors. And so, yeah, we see them when we can. But we're looking forward to family camp, going up there and seeing them, seeing my two nieces.
Yeah.
So
yeah, they got that Bill Lee. Last time I saw them, they got that Bill Lee hype, man.
Oh yeah, man, they're outdoorsy for sure.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That's good.
Well, so you got Kare Youth League, good time. Sounds like very busy. Sounds like you had a great mom say you're going to be busy and you're going to like it.
Yep, that's how it was.
So
yep.
The decision to go to Rio Hondo Prep. Sports at Rio isn't life and death. It's a little bit more than that. So,
yeah.
What was
so
that
how
like?
I went to Rio, the public school system's not the greatest system out there. And so I was in 6th grade. And then I remember my good friend, Jason Sakamoto, his parents sent him to Rio Hondo. And I'm like, oh man, I just lost a really good friend of mine. And so my mom saw the people that I was hanging out with, saw my grades just tanking. And she goes, I need to get you out of here. And, single income, it was rough. She did what she had to do, but she sent both my sister and I was in 7th and my sister was in 8th to Rio. And best thing that ever happened. Like, I can't imagine if I would have stayed in the public school system where I'd be, if I'm where I am at right now. It was awesome. And just getting to know my classmates and, my future wife is in my class. It was like, it was awesome. And these people that I went to school with that are everybody, because Rio is such a small, they're like considered my lifelong friends, like some people are like, oh yeah, I got 3-5 friends. Dude, I got like a ton of friends, and everybody knows each other. And especially going to the trips, it's like, you get to know these people on a different level, and you could create a bond with them, and for forever will be part of your life. So
what's also awesome about Rio that people don't understand is, my graduating class was 15 people.
Ours is 10.
10. You hit double digits. Way to go.
Yep.
Classes are so small, but even the classes you had no affiliation with, you and I have graduated 9 years apart. We've never really talked before, but there's still this like bond. Everyone went through the same stuff, right?
Yes. Everyone knows what we went through, the trenches we were in, and the upbringing we know is the same. And so that's why, like, I love running into Rio Kare Youth League people that's outside. So one of the guys that we're talking about, I don't know if you know Alex Taco.
Yeah.
He's a stud football player. Plus he's Filipino. So he's applying for us. Yeah. And I said, good. Alex, I know your upbringing. I know that you're a good person and you would fit well in our culture. I'm going to try to, get the word in on the people who are in charge of the interview process and hopefully get you in, So, you have this bond. Like if you're a Rio Kare Youth League, it's like, it's a special bond. Band of brothers, so to speak,
Yeah. Oh yeah, no doubt. Yeah. Alex and Nate, great Tycho family.
Yeah.
Incredible football players. And let's see so you mentioned your friends. Talk to me about who were some of your teammates or close friends in high school. Everyone's kind of knows each other, but who are some of these friends you speak of?
Oh, Gordy's a good friend of mine. Mark, So my first trip, Mark and Tim in 1987, I was just like, again, my mom needed something for me to do in the summer. So she's like, I'm putting you on this 8-week trip. And I'm like, okay, whatever. I was like the youngest guy. Mr. Horton was my coach, so he helped me. But Mark and Tim were like, we slept in the same tent together. And so we grew up together. And, I was like I said, I was like this, Kare Youth League guy. I had like no clout, right? But then after the trip, I remember Mark was like, he was kind of like, he had his own posse, right? Mark was a pretty popular guy, right? He'd walk around, he had his own posse. And then I'd walk around and he's like, hey, what's up, Larry? I'm like, hey, Mark, what's up? And then like, I remember his friends, John Healy and Sebastian Jimenez, they were like, you know that guy, man? He's like, yeah, man, he's cool. And I was like, oh yeah, dude, I got some clout. I'm like, Mark gave me did me a solid. Yeah, so Mark, Tim, like I said, the Lee brothers, that trip, I had Randy Johnson, Dave Carson, Todd Carson. I was the youngest guy, so they were always like, when we do something in the water, swinging on those ropes, they'd always launch me because I was the lightest. So I had a connection with them, and after that, so 87 trip, then it's 87, 89, 91, 93, 95. And I went to consecutive, and I became a trip veteran, and that's where people, you make a connection with them, and they become your lifelong friends. Pete Clark, Jeff Fairley, Randy Johnson, Rick Johnson, all those guys.
And again, these bus rides, it's all coming full circle. These long bus rides, training you for when you'd have to ride the rig up north.
Right.
I mean, it's all tying together.
Yeah.
Man alive.
Yeah.
Great. I mean, the late 80s.
I would never trade those experiences for anything. Those trips, what we got to see, and then you go outside, and then I remember my crew was asking me, what have you done? And I'm like, yeah, I used to go on these like summer tours around the United States. I've been in every state. And they're like, what? Like, a lot of these people have never been outside of California. I mean, maybe Mexico, but I'm like, yeah, I've been in every state. I've been to Europe for 5 weeks. I told them how we put the play set together, and it was like everyone had a job, and I was like, it's like the greatest memories. And my mom, she wanted me to go out there and learn like responsibility, because you had to remember getting fined and stuff, right? You had to take care of all your stuff. Oh, it's like, I remember my first trip, the first week I was already out of script book money, and I was like, oh my gosh, it was.
For those that don't know, we didn't get to carry money. The coaches gave us these cards that it said, $1, 25 cents, or, basically any amount. And when you forgot something, or you were late to something, hey, Pollock, that's $1, and you clip it, you get fined.
Yeah, you get fined.
And now, I don't know about you, but all these years later, I have that sixth sense now when I'm leaving the house or leave. I'm like, I'm forgetting something. There's something I'm forgetting. Or I'm like, really? I'm like, because if you left something behind, lost and found, cost you money, man. Training.
Yeah. I mean, the big one was embarrassment of the group, right? $1 fine, embarrassing of the group. And I'm like, this is dumb. But then you realize, like, like in my job, being professional and being like, of course that's important, because you not only carry, the name for you, right? But also your department, like you represent the department. So don't do anything stupid out there that'll embarrass the department. You're like,
personally, I think our world needs this fine system. We all need to carry around these cards. This is not just summer trips. And every time someone does something dumb or says, hey, nope, give me your card. Yeah. We need someone out there policing this. That's what I think.
It's the greatest thing. It taught me how to budget and take care of my stuff, and that I can't be just out there aloof doing my own thing and not caring of the consequences, right? So
yeah. So you were not behind, but you were a few classes behind some really incredible names, as you mentioned, Todd and Rick, and Randy and Dave and Rod Fairley, Pete Clark, all those guys. So you're not only learning from those guys, but you get to watch them up close and personal in their Rio years, which were some incredible years. The 80, whatever was this, the
87, 88,
87, 88, the 90, 91 teams. I mean, you had to just be ecstatic.
I was water boys for those teams. And so I watched that. I remember helping them get out of their equipment. Oh man, they stunk so bad, but their equipment, was so tight, getting them out of there and getting them water. It was awesome. Like getting to be part of the team. And, it was like, it was great. And those guys were studs. Mike Whiteside, phenomenal athletes. You know, it's like Jeff, like I said, Jeff Fairley, Pete Clark, Jeff Valdez, man, Dave Joe, all like, I mean, we like the thing that I love about Rio, like we don't really have like, oh, this guy is like superstar, you know, we just have guys who learn to play well together, and the coaches find what their strengths are and they capitalize on it. And it's like, it's awesome. I love watching the games. I love just going and seeing the atmosphere. That's huge.
I would sum up Rio athletics is it's a bunch of kids who are just as happy to score the touchdown as they are to lay the block. It's the kids just as excited to make the basket as to making the pass. It's the kid, you know, it's those things I think that you are just kind of combined into athletes, the males and the female side of sports, that it's a bunch of guys, as you mentioned, who could be stars somewhere else probably, but team players at Rio Hondo Prep.
Oh, and that's what sports is about, right? It's not about the one superstar that everyone here gives the ball and everyone watches them, right? Yeah. It's like everybody has a job, and it's just as important as the guy who, you know, gets all the accolades. So not to age you, Larry, yes, but I started Kare Youth League around, it was 92, fall of 92. Wally Ashby was my coach. Ashby, okay, my sister's class, yeah. And I know you were, you know, Mark and Tim and those guys. We had an outing, one of my very first Rio Hondo Prep football game. We had an outing, and you know, it was so cool. Wear your jersey, it's $1 to get in, whatever. And I remember seeing you guys on the field. I didn't remember anyone specifically, but I've talked to Mark about this game, and it was my very first Rio game. I fell in love from the moment we showed up. It was pouring rain. You remember this game? I think it was Paulie. Yeah. Oh, I hate Paulie. I hate him with a passion. Hate him.
You are a real graduate.
Paulie, yes. Good. Because it's just basically this rich school against us, right? And they always had the best equipment. And man, I hated losing to Paulie. But during my years, unfortunately, we were small. Like we didn't have, you know, like I said, 10 people in my class, and Mark, they had like what, four seniors or something like that, or senior year. It wasn't very big, and man, they owned us our years when we played sports, and still this day I hate losing to Paulie, and that's why when we beat them at the Rose Bowl, I was like, it's just like, yes.
People like, what are you watching? What are you rooting for? It's like, don't worry about it. This is important. Yes. This is life and death. Yeah, down with Paulie. It was a pleasure interviewing their coach before the season.
Super good dude, man. I'm like, I could totally see him in Rio. I was like, oh man, now I kind of like him a little bit because he's a good person, and he's you know, giving them lessons that, you know, that Rio's all about. I was like,
I'm supposed to hate you. Why would you?
I know, but he was a really good guy. I was like, oh man.
When he was like, hey, I hope you guys go 9-1 every year, I was like, that was the kindest thing ever. Stop it. We need to hate each other. I don't like this. But I'll have him. He was so much fun. And the Paulie rivalry alive and well. What did you play in high school in the football, basketball, baseball? What were your positions?
So we were such low on numbers, and then I remember my freshman, sophomore year, they're like, hey, we need a center. I'm like, sure, I'll be center just for practice. I win like less than $1. And then all of a sudden I'm starting center, less than $1. And oh my gosh, I'm like, I raised my hand because I wanted to get practice going, right? And volunteer. And here I am at center. But then my junior and senior year, I played like a corner, defensive back and safety. And then I was a wide receiver. But defense was where it's at. I loved them passing and just setting them up and just clocking them right when they're about to catch it. You know, knock the snot out of them.
Nothing better than hitting people, man. Defense defense is where it's at. So you must have loved Mr. Randall Johnson and Gary Lunny. Tell me about your relationship with those guys.
Outside on, inside gap type nose pinch alley. Like I just grabbed that out of my head. And that was the lineman's creed right there from Mr. Lunny. Oh my gosh. And then Mr. Randy Johnson, like, hey, Pollock. He knows call me Pollock. You got to learn how to block. BLOK. I'm like, what? I'm like, that's not how you spell it, but okay. BLOK, block. I love those guys. Talk about somebody who made an impact on you, and really showed that they cared, about you as a person. Those two guys, like, just icons, right? Yeah. And the thing I love about Rio and Kare, it's like not one person is just a good. It's like a culmination of all those people are good people. Like, these are people that you would trust your kids to lead. And it's like, where can you find a place where everybody is a good person, right? And their heart is in the right place. And it's like, dude, nowhere, I don't think you'll ever find a place like that. And I'm proud to be part of that, and I'm proud of putting my kids into that, because I really think that those people really have the one thing that's important to you as a person, and then that's your character building, and your relationship.
And you mentioned him already, but I mean, and then back at Mr. Drain, I mean, same thing, a guy that he pushed you hard, man, let me tell you, but you loved him for it. Loved
Mr. Ken Drain. And it's funny because for a while there in college, I lived in the Lee's garage, which was next door. And Mr. Dane was over there, we'd talk, and oh man, I love that guy and his kids. Hilarious.
Now, two questions about two of your former teammates, and we'll move on. But Mark Carson and Ken Lee. Number one, Ken Lee just loves to run his mouth. You say he's his best friend. He loves to talk about how great he was. Was he as good as he says he was? You gotta help us out here.
Ken was actually a stud, an athlete. Okay. I don't know if you see pictures of him. Like, you remember Vanilla Ice? He had that flat top. Ken in high school was a stud, and I remember everyone liked him. He was just a beast. And I remember all the girls from other schools be like, "Oh, Ken," because they knew him. He was an icon. He had that hair, and it was like, Ken was like, he was shaving and stuff. In 8th grade. He was a man. He was and he was Ken was a stud. So he does run his mouth off a little, but he could back it up. Ken's
he grew up with those two brothers plus Mr. Lee, the father.
Yeah, they just toughen him up. Stop crying, Ken. They just beat him up. Make him stronger. So it made him who he is. And then Gordy, for somebody his size, he was probably one of the hardest hitters ever. When I going up against, like, when we do the hitting drills, I was like, oh great, I got Mark. He would just crush you, man. I'm like, where did that power come from? And he wasn't fast, but man, he would light you up, and he would just put it all on the field, man. And that's why I loved seeing him, because I used to coach the Cardinals and he was the Tigers, and he was like, we would have really good football games against each other, and to see him, run in the varsity, I was like, this for sure. That's the only position I see you in.
So that's what I want to ask, like, playing with him in high school, and then obviously coaching against him when you coached youth sports. I mean, did you know when you're playing with him, like, okay, this guy he's got a mind, he sees the game differently? Is it any surprise to you now that he's the head football coach at Rio?
Not at all. And I hope he stays there for a really, really long time, because that guy, he just thought outside the box, and the way he inspired his players. I mean, and I can see it, back then, who his boys that he inspired, and then now, and then those guys that he coached, like Dan Pastor and Brian Hunter, those guys were studs, and then good people now. They're like, I mean, I can't speak any more accolades. Like, Mark is a good person, and it's awesome that I'm his friend. That he's I grew up with him.
Well, he's so welcoming to all the alumni to support the football program. We support all the teams.
Job.
Football special. He's carried in the footsteps of Randall Johnson and Ken Drain. And I'm so happy for him. But Larry, let's talk now about kind of the girls' side of sports. The girls' side. First of all,
I gotta represent. Like, this is the
look at Rio Hondo RH softball. I like it, man.
I got girls. Girls, and
So Avery and Grace. Grace is a senior.
Grace is a senior. She's 18, and then Avery's 16.
And they're both playing varsity right now. Varsity
softball. Yeah.
And their team, from what I've read, videos I've seen,
they're doing really good. So
looking good, huh?
Yeah. So Grace she's just a hard worker, and she puts the time in, and it shows. And she's just fun to watch because she's super athletic, super fast. And that's all from mom. Like I said, I was kind of
say, yeah, it's got to be the Hampton side of the family.
It's all mom. And it's funny because I expect high stuff. I have really high expectations for them. And like, what are you talking about, Dad? I'm like, you played a varsity softball, or what was it? I think I was on JV as a senior in basketball. I was that bad in basketball.
Oh, wow.
It was bad. No, and it's funny. There's a video that Kent found, and it was me shooting a free throw, and I shot it like airballed, and I just. So as soon as the air ball, I walk straight to the bench. You hear the sub buzzer. I was like, I already knew, right?
I'm done.
No, yeah, but so Grace, and then Avery, naturally talented, like she is there, but she's under the umbrella of her older sister, so she's not putting in as much effort that I know she has the potential. But next year, I'm hoping. That her sister is gone and she's gonna have to step up, and I know she could do it because the talent, the raw talent is there. She's just very
work a little harder as our career is. We get to that upperclassman age.
Right.
Like, wait a minute, I only got 2 years left. I got 1 year left.
And then people are looking up to you now. And then I got my son next year, Rain. He's gonna have to be playing varsity here. Mark said, he's like, dude, we have a small class, and so you need to step up. And he's bigger than I am. He's just still a little kid, like I don't think his mind has grown into his body yet, because
how old is he?
He's 14. He's an 8th grader, and that class, okay. I'm telling you right now, if that class could stay together, guarantee you CIF championship caliber.
RHP right football. Okay, the future. Yep. All right, so 4 years from now, or 3 years, whatever it is. So what, Rain, you said?
Rain, yeah. Rain's my
Pollock. That sounds like a sweet basketball name.
Rain Pollock. Yep. Yeah. Yep.
We'll be looking for him on the gridiron. So yeah, I've seen your daughter Grace play a lot of basketball, even when she was junior. I mean, she, like you said,
last year would have been a good team for them with Katie Key, and unfortunately COVID stole that from us. But man, yeah, it's fun watching her play. Right.
So what sport would you say your daughters are best at, or are they just good at all three of them?
Volleyball is their favorite, hands down.
Really?
Like, not even close. Basketball, they started to like it because Mr. Parker is a great coach, and pushes them. And then softball, initially they're like, I don't see how anyone could like softball, but they've grown to like it. They've grown to love their teammates and just being able to contribute. So yeah, they like all three, but volleyball is their favorite.
Nice.
Hands down.
Very nice. Well, I find it interesting, like that softball field over there. I haven't seen a ton of softball fields, but I've been to a lot of different high schools. They got a nice little setup over there with the picnic tables and the bleachers. Seems like good.
Mr. Parker did a really, really good job there, and takes pride in that field. And he's done a great job as a coach, both in basketball and softball. And I like his style and pushing the girls, to reach their potential. So I like Mr. Parker's good peeps. And I grew up knowing him on the trip because, remember the trip, he ran the concession, right?
Cook, yeah.
And he would make all our breakfast. And I remember helping him making, when we do hamburger fries, making all the hamburgers inside that concession stand with him. So
you were the quesadilla guy. You were the quesadilla guy, right? Yeah, that was your deal.
Yeah.
Well, you got a senior, you have a sophomore, and currently an 8th grader.
An 8th grader. Yep.
Man, what a fun time. And how often does everyone walk in the pavilion and be like, hey, see mom's name up there on that banner up there?
Well, so they replaced it, right? They replaced that. They replaced for nicer ones. And so I bought the old one.
Really?
And yes,
Oh.
and so I have it in my garage, and so it's cool because it has Cheris, it has Tiffany, her younger sister, and it's got Ginger and Teresa McCormick and Molly Carson, like all these names, before they were married. So I have that hanging in my garage. And also, I also bought, remember when we redid the pavilion?
Mm-hmm.
I got the crest.
Wow.
The crest on the floor. Yes. I was like, oh, this is awesome.
I must have missed this auction. I must have missed
it. It was during a like the annual family picnic. I remember I'm like, dude, I really want that because that would be so awesome. Just be part of just history and so it's funny. I know. And then my kids always make fun of me. They're like, how come your name's not up there, Dad? How come your name's not on the banner? I'm like, well, my name's on the building. My name's on the building. Because my dad made like a pretty good donation and like got our name on the building. But
my goodness, what
it's
was
funny
it like?
because because them like so they were in the public school system for a while, and we saw, my wife and I both saw like the progression, and like what, kids shouldn't be seeing these or hearing these type of things at this age, and something we could do is change the environment. That's what we could do as parents. And so made a decision. It's not cheap, but we're gonna do this. And so at first our kids were like, hated it because the friends, like, you're pulling me away from all my friends and whatnot. Yeah. And now they won't admit it, but they've given me a little hints there. Now they're like, Dad, I'm so glad that you pulled us out and put us in this school, because I have these friends, these teachers, and some of the friends they grew up with, they're like pregnant and stuff like that. Like, see, that could have been you, right? Wow. And so them going to this school, I guess, see them blossoming, not being bullied, and it's all for every positive, everything for
That's full circle, as what you mentioned with your mom, kind of getting you involved in so many things. It's a good thing for kids to be busy. I'm definitely a believer in that, because that's what helped me. And now I have downtime. I'm like, well, I'm supposed to be doing something, So, what you mentioned her already, but what was your wife Cheris? What was it like marrying into the Hampton family? The Hampton name, synonymous with Kare Youth League and Rio Hondo Prep and the buildings and this and that. I mean, what was it like? I know she recently lost, or Mr. Phillip Sr. passed away. Talk to me about the Hampton family.
Oh man, it's like, I grew up as a single family, and so when I saw what they had, I was like, I want that, and so I was drawn to that, and marrying her was just like the best, best gift God has ever given me, because she, like I said, rock star in everything. She was like an athlete. She's very creative, very patient. Like, we're still complete opposites, but how they say opposites attract, and she's the better half of the Pollocks. Yeah. She sometimes says like we have 4 kids. I'm being in one of them. She is the glue that holds this family together for sure. But marrying into him, I love it. My Mrs. Hampton's taken me in, and I don't know if Rod's listening, but she says that I'm her favorite son-in-law. So
take that, Pazuzu. Take that. Yeah. That's right.
But yeah, she lives next door. They live next door, which is nice. Because when I'm gone at work for multiple days on end, she could, when the kids, especially were younger, were help. And it's funny because the kids, that's all they know is like that, grandma lives next door. And so when we were thinking about moving, they thought, grandma's gonna move too next door. We're like, that's not how it works, but it's been a positive, positive experience that they're next door. And now that they're a little older, we could help for sure. Yeah. But the kids, kids love having grandma next door, and I love her. She's a really good person.
I never knew very directly or anything, but they always seemed so kind, so giving, and Mr. Phillip Sr. was just happy guy, Mrs. Hampton, and then PJ was like 4 years ahead of me, I think.
Oh, really?
kind
Okay.
of some, kind of some
Yeah.
interaction
So you
there.
knew of PJ? Yeah. PJ was like
Yeah.
another little brother to me. So
Yeah.
yeah, PJ is a good dude.
Oh man. Well, nothing but love to the Hampton family. I know they're going through a tough time right now, but yeah, just wonderful people, and you know that better than anybody, Larry. So
Yeah.
uh,
Yep.
Larry, I really appreciate you doing this with me. I wore my Rams LA Fire hat.
Yes,
I'm
I'm a Rams fan too. Ever since
Really?
Jim
Oh, we got another
Everett,
hour.
Flipper Anderson. Yeah.
Let's go right now.
All
Super
those,
Bowl champs.
Yes, I know. I remember so someone invited me to watch. I'm like, no, I just want to enjoy this, at home. And it was awesome. Watched it with my daughter. So it was
Nice.
Good. But greatest show on turf. Did you ever watch that movie? With the Kurt Warner movie?
Kurt Warner? Yes.
Yeah.
I thought it was really well done.
I thought so too. Yep. And I remember watching that.
Even if you're not a Rams fan, that's a good film to watch, I would
say. Yeah. No, Rams
Go
fan
Rams.
for sure. Rams and Angels fan. Are you Angels or Dodgers?
Well, I was a Dodger guy, but when I got into umpiring, you kind of learned to not like any of those guys because they're all mad at you all the time. Anyway, so
right.
Yeah, I'm more of a neutral guy in baseball, but I still follow the Dodgers.
Yeah, cool.
Very cool. I mean, how nervous were you in that fourth quarter of the championship game and then the Super Bowl?
I'm like, they're gonna find a way for the other team to win. I'm telling you right now. I'm like screaming at the TV. I'm like, they're gonna call some foul and they're gonna get it. I'm like, come on. And then when it all finally came to fruition, it was good.
The LA Rams are world champs. I couldn't believe it. I was just like,
home field. It was awesome.
I know, couldn't have read a better script. It was awesome. Yeah. Well, cool. Well, if anything else I've learned in our fun conversation, I have a new Rams fan friend.
Yes.
All right.
Not very many of us, but
no, that's right. It's an elite group.
That's right.
It's not,
not bandwagoners, right?
That's right. It's an elite group. Larry, good luck to the Daughters on their softball season. We'll have to maybe get out to a playoff game here or two to check out the Kares. Yeah. That is one thing Rio's never hung is a softball banner. I think it's about time for one. What do you think?
I know. But the way CIF has
the divisions,
it's like, what? We're playing against a team that's got 5,000 students. Yeah, like, are you kidding me? It's like whatever.
But started.
It is what it is. Yeah.
Hey, well, they can just carry them 5 stones like David, and we'll see what happens.
Right. Yes.
Thanks so much, Larry. That was
You're
a blast, man.
All right. Thanks, Matt. Take care.
Larry Pollock, thank you so much for coming on the Get Home Safe podcast. Captain Larry Pollock. And for all those interested in getting involved in firefighting, man, there's a good name to know, especially the Mt SAC Fire Academy as the head instructor. And most importantly, a Rams fan. I mean, I'm super happy now. My day is complete after all those great memories we shared. And to come to find out Larry's a Rams fan, well, come on now. I got to love that. Anyway, all kidding aside, Larry Pollock, class of 1994, Rio Hondo Prep and firefighter, captain of the Rancho Cucamonga Fire Department. Doing great work, nearly 20 years on the job, has himself a wonderful family with wife Cheris and the three kids there, Grace, Avery, and Rain. Just a lot to be proud of. And I really appreciate him coming on the show and talking with me about his experiences and firefighting and Rio Hondo Prep and so many great things. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that as much as I did and took something home from it with you into the weekend here on another episode of the Get Home Safe podcast. We'll have more episodes next week. Just me on Tuesday, rambling away about the current events, sports, maybe some fights going on. We'll see. Just my reactions to the crazy world we live in, usually about 45 minutes or so. And then another interview with a guest on Friday, at least an hour. Usually, sometimes they go into the hour and a half range, but always fun on Fridays to have a conversation with somebody that some people know, or maybe some people don't know. Either way, we usually learn something, get inspired. And I think a lot of people take the interviews into the weekend with them, and some people even go back and re-listen to these. They are pretty timeless, I think. And as Larry did on his travels into firefighting, he could listen to a lot of different interviews from people that he grew up with and stuff. So that wasn't necessarily the intent of the podcast getting started, but it is now. It's fun to chat with all these people, and I look forward to doing it again week to week. It's just a blast. So if you have any suggestions, guys, throw them my way. I'm still stockpiling episodes daily to try to get this content out, because it's a lot of fun for me to have a conversation with someone either someone I know well or someone who I haven't talked to much ever, like Larry. But again, it's like we were in the same class, even though we were 9 years apart. That'll wrap up today's episode, guys. Have a great weekend. Be sure to follow us on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. If you have questions, gethomesafepodcast@yahoo.com. There's also a voice message link in the episode notes. If you want to click on that, send in a voice message. Always nice to hear from you guys. Whatever you want me to talk about or anything you want to say to me, questions, send them my way. It'd be great to hear from you guys, just like you hear from me on Tuesdays and Fridays. Guys, have a great weekend. Enjoy every day as summer is fast approaching. It is definitely heating up here in Southern California. That is for sure. It's going to be a warm summer, but we will be here weekly for you guys on the Get Home Safe podcast. Guys, no matter what you're doing, whether you're out on the town or around in third base, get home safe.